About 10 years ago, my daughter was struggling to learn how to read, and she had trouble blending sounds and following written instructions. In about third grade, I think as the reading became more difficult and school became harder for him and he started to realize that something wasn't right, he developed a lot of anxiety.
He was a preemie when he was born, so he had a little bit of challenges growing up as a toddler. He didn't walk early. He walked at like 15 months. A little more emotional, a little frustrated. It's one of those we always thought he would outgrow, but never quite did. I kept following him along.
It was huge that she was diagnosed early. If it would have been a huge difference if she was diagnosed in third or fourth grade. Even at her young age, I knew she was struggling, and you want to be taken seriously because she's a bright girl. She could cover for herself and she didn't have behavioral problems, but I knew how much she was struggling. He knew he wasn't able to do what the other children were able to do, and he'd always been so good at everything. He's a very good athlete, he's very physically competent, so he was always the guy out there leading the pack, and all of a sudden for him life changed a lot because he wasn't anymore. He wasn't able to do what everybody else was doing.
He became frustrated with simple art projects that the teacher would ask him to draw, and he couldn't connect the circles when he was making a circle or trying to connect some of the basic figures. We noticed that he was having a hard time with that.
It hurt because I had trouble in school and struggled all through school, and I could see her experiencing the same thing. He developed a lot of anxiety, and that really led us to then find out the underlying reasons. So when we started to see he was resisting going to school, he was just everything in his personality turned around. He was quiet, he was unhappy, he was frustrated.
I think Chandler's biggest challenge has been his self-esteem. He had a hard time connecting with his friends at school, and he was a little different. He would act a little different. His attention span was real short. He would do much better on a one-on-one in a classroom environment. When it came to a large group, he would lose focus and have a real hard time concentrating.
I was always a little worried, a little nervous. I was afraid to talk out in class, raise my hand, and just always a little nervous and self-conscious about myself.
We ended up having to pull him out of class on a separate tutor to help him keep up with school. But by pulling him out of class, we actually alienate him anymore because he wasn't a part of the classroom anymore, and people would look at it differently.
She got quieter and quieter. She didn't participate. She hid some of her papers. And I just felt like she was losing ground. I
was kind of getting really frustrated trying to understand how to treat my son. He's been through several different doctors and different physicians, and the answers I kept getting were to keep adding more medication to his treatment. And I kept noticing the personality change in him, and it wasn't a good change at all. It was kind of the point where we were not understanding who he really was anymore.
He would, it's hard for me to talk about, he would hit his head against the wall. And we would just hold him till he was able to control himself. When you don't help everyone and help them achieve their potential, then you lose all sorts of talent. A child dealing with any of these many issues can just be totally lost because of it. Because you just decide, oh, it's a behavioral thing, or they're not trying, or they just, I could really see how that would be so easily misunderstood. And then not getting the basic education they need for those reasons, and then it's all over.
It's not too late. I mean, my son is 14. I wish I would have done this 6 years ago. We would have probably had answers, and his quality of life would have been much better.
When a child can't do well in school, they're not going to finish school. And they are going to find a group that accepts them, and they are going to find that they're good at something, and you want it to be something constructive. Until you've gone through it, it is hard to kind of grasp how important it can be, but it is expensive, and because there's usually a lot of therapy and a lot of hours involved in helping these kids figure out what they need to do, and most insurance doesn't cover it, and so it's so sad to me that there's kids out there that could be going through what we went through or what my son went through and not have the help that would make such a huge difference for them. So if there's some way to provide that, I can't imagine a greater gift. I can't even imagine what it's like to watch your child struggle and not even be able to help them with language and be intimidated by a school system. It would mean the world to you that someone helped your child succeed in school, and it would be life-changing as much as food and shelter for your child, because that's where they spend the majority of their day. She didn't get trapped in her own lack of confidence or labeled right away for years, which happens to so many kids.
Happened to you?
Oh, yeah, my whole school career. That was big that she was diagnosed early.
I'm doing great in school. I finally realized that, I can be at the top, and I can work that hard to get there, and I'm as happy as can be. It's possible. Any kid with help can become the best version of themselves.
Hear about the third world countries that need all this help, but it's right here in our backyard, and it can make such a huge impact on so many children, the children that don't even have a full meal a day except for the one they get at school. We provide. So I think it's definitely a worthy cause, and I look forward to supporting it.